WOVU LP Cleveland.
Stand up.
Issues out of black and white. Let's concentrate on right and wrong.
And now, our voices today.
Why are we led by our pride?
Hello and welcome to our Voices Today on WOVU 95.9 FM, Burton Bell Car Community Radio, streaming live from WOVU.org and the WOVU mobile app. I hope that everyone is feeling good and feeling well. I hope you had a chance to drink some clean, fresh water today. I hope you had a chance to eat some tasty and delectably nutritious food. And I hope you had some good rest the night before so that we are thinking positive and productive thoughts as we move through these wonderful moments called life on earth. And today we have a wonderful discussion ahead of us about a very important topic and issue. We all know October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and this is our monthly edition also of Life and the Law, conversations about your rights with our friends from the Legal Aid Society of Cleveland. Shout out to Laura Klingler. She is our new liaison. She's a wonderful spirit. So shout out to Laura for being the wonderful curator of these conversations as we move forward. So let's see. There's construction on East 75th Street and Opportunity Corridor. Something to do with that new Cleveland Division of Police headquarters site. And I'm just like thinking, okay, there's construction there. The snow is coming, like the real snow that piles up that you have to drive through. So it's like, oh my gosh, I got to start taking a different route, which means I got to start leaving earlier, being very intentional about that so I don't have to be stressed out here getting stuck in that corridor traffic. I am not taking that road the whole winter. I just refuse. It's it's an opportunity at the moment to be late. that is the opportunity that it presents for me. So Opportunity Court, they're still working on it. I've been talking about this ever since it opened. Y'all are still working on it. How about let's open a thing when it's done? Because you keep closing lanes, you putting things in the middle of the road, obstructing things, working on, painting, water. I can't even describe the amount of activities that are still happening on that road, and yet it's open for travel, which is it's dope for some people because, I don't know, I guess it's faster. It is a little bit faster than going the way we used to go. But it really just diverted for me. This is just my Thursday morning rant. For me, it just diverted all of the traffic that was going down Carnegie toward the highway, and it just put it all on East 105 Opportunity Corridor, like from all directions. It's really an amazing sight. Shout out to the traffic helicopter people. I know they have a good time looking at all that. So anyway, sorry, I started to start off with some complaints there, but I'm just like, this Opportunity Corridor, it's the bane of my existence in the mornings. But did I get enough good rest? I don't know. I've got to, be more intentional about thinking positive, productive thoughts. The king of positivity, King Kaleem, was with us yesterday. A riveting conversation, about the loving black women, his movement that I am right there with him. I love black women. He didn't say this, but I think we should, do a hashtag or something. His forthcoming album titled I Love Black Women, all tracks. He didn't get a chance to explain this yesterday, but each of the tracks is admission of some type of behavior or toxic behavior that he feels like he has given towards black men, not speaking for all black men, towards black women. And as he moves through the process of realizing what he's doing, and making the efforts to change, and in the end coming out realizing, wow, I should be cherishing, these human beings rather than, being patriarchal and misogynistic and all those things. So that men can be and boys can be conditioned to do and behave, in the company of women, the mindset around women that men and boys may grow up to have. So shout out to King Kaleem, KingKaleem.com, KingKalim. You can get items, particularly hats. I don't know what else there is, but at KingKalim.com that say I love black women. His goal is to just have the whole world shouting I love black women. And so read more about it at KingKalim.com. I think it's a beautiful movement and crusade. And it's something that I think we all could get behind. Shout out to Mayor Bibb for picking up the cause eventually in the future. Mayor Bibb, you love black women, sir. Also, there's a mention of the name Issa. And so Issa Rae, television producer, film. I don't know if she's produced a film yet, but wondrous television producer, show writer, etc. Issa Rae, please, if you have a chance, call us here at WOVU 216-271-0959, 216-271-0959, or please call us on the WOVU Talkback line, leave a voicemail message or send a text, 216-200-7848, 216-200-7848. Issa Rae, come and help our brother King Kaleem, be in the music video, because her name is mentioned throughout the album, at least in the two songs, definitely that we got a chance to hear yesterday. I Love Black Women and Mona Issa. So, and we, as promised, we are going to have a listening party here at WOVU when the album drops, because this is some positive stuff, that we can help elevate from somebody right here in our community, a seed that grew and bloomed and blossomed and is just spreading joy and positivity and love throughout the city, throughout the world. So yeah, let's elevate this man, because he is super dope. And shout out to his super duper dope partner, Alexis. And, we just love y'all. Or I love y'all, and everyone else should too. All right. So have you recovered from the Talib Kweli event that was this past Tuesday at Morning Star Baptist Church in partnership with the Cleveland City Club of Cleveland and St. Luke's Foundation? A conversation with Talib Kweli's book, or I think it's his biography, Vibrate Higher, a Rap Story, as the backdrop to a conversation about how music affects our lives, our emotions, the way we feel about each other, and how we can shift our minds by shifting what we hear, what we choose to put in our environments regarding music. So, and I got that. Those are the cliff notes I got from Jay Williams. I have to listen to the actual audio because we had saxophone lessons on that same day. But I still have the book. I'm going to read it. Vibrate Higher, a rap story. But this appearance of King Kaleem directly after that event here in Cleveland with Talib Kweli, just so in alignment. Those two messages. And I think that we can all vibrate higher by making, those decisions, better decisions about what we are putting in our environment, whether it's our audio environment, our visual environment, what we're feeding ourselves, what we're breathing, all those things. So, yeah. And all that affects our moods, again, like I said. And this is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. When people are vibrating higher, for sure, by taking care of themselves, eating well, sleeping well, staying hydrated, moving your body, breathing deeply, doing things that are incorporating fun into your life, maybe some positive music, right? We are better able to communicate with each other, but things, can go awry for a number of reasons. So that can include some situations in our home that, we may not know what to do about, but we are here talking with our friends from Legal Aid Society, attorneys from the domestic or the family practice group. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce them and hear some of their words, their voices, before we take our first break and then come back and really get into the heart of the discussion. But I'm going to go ahead and welcome our friends, Legal Aid Society of Cleveland. If you are struggling with a legal issue that impacts your basic needs, such as housing, safety, or finances, visit Legal Aid's website at lasclev.org. That's LASCLEV, as in victory, because we are victorious.org to apply for help. Or you can call their intake line 216-687-1900, 216-687-1900. If you or anyone you know is struggling with a legal issue around housing, safety, finance, any basic need, give this number a call, 216-687-1900. And if you need a Spanish speaking person, 216-586-3190. For if you are a Spanish speaker, you can call the Spanish intake line, 216-586-3190. All right, so October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, which aims to educate and raise awareness about this important issue. Legal Aid has a variety of resources available regarding family law matters, including domestic violence. More information is available on Legal Aid's website. Again, lasclev.org/family. So today we have with us on this edition of Life in the Law Conversations About Your Rights, attorney Alexandria Rudin, supervising attorney of the Family Practice Group with Legal Aid Society of Cleveland. Alexandria is a member of the Supreme Court of Ohio Advisory Committee on Domestic Violence and the Ohio Office of Criminal Justice Services Family Violence Prevention Center Advisory Board. Whew, a mouthful, but very important. She is also on the Supreme Court's Abuse, Neglect, and Dependency Subcommittee. She is the co-author of Ohio Domestic Violence Law Handbook, published by Thomson Reuters. She is an inaugural recipient of the Ohio Domestic Violence Network's 2014 Croucher Family Advocacy Award and the 2020 recipient of the Robert Dennison Special Achievement Award through the Ohio Attorney General. She has presented locally and nationally on domestic violence and the law, and she is here with us today once again. Welcome back, Alexandria Rudin.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And another returning voice, Haley Martinelli, supervising attorney with the family practice group of Legal Aid Society of Cleveland. Haley represents survivors of domestic violence in matters impacting the safety and security of the family, such as civil protection order cases, divorces, and child custody disputes. Haley is a graduate of the University of Akron School of Law. She is a member of the Cleveland Metropolitan Bar Association and the Ohio State Bar Association. Haley is also a member of the statewide Family Law Task Force and serves on the Ohio Supreme Court's I-Court Task Force, which focuses on improving court operations by using remote technology. All right, we love technology. Welcome back, Haley Martinelli.
Pleased to be here.
Awesome. So before we're going to take a quick break soon, and thank you. I love learning more about you guys, because I definitely didn't know all of these things. So now I know, our listening audience knows more about our friends, attorneys Haley and Alexandria. But let's be open up with this question, and then take a breath, go to a break. Either one of you, you can answer this first question for us. What is domestic violence? Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I'll tell you what it's not. It is not random. It is not mutual, and it is not isolated. It is the pattern of behavior that includes physical abuse, sexual abuse, coercive control, threats, economic abuse, stalking behaviors, and the two major pieces about that. It is a pattern behavior. It is not happening one time. And the other piece that I think is equally important, the objective of the abuser is to exercise and maintain power and control over an intimate partner. Now, that is the social definition. There is also, Ohio has domestic violence laws, and they have a legal definition, which is a little bit less broad.
Okay.
And I can go into that after a bit.
All righty. Laura, do you want to add to that, or did Alexandra sum that up for us?
I think Alexandria summed that up well.
All righty. I thought so. So let's take a think on that and come back after this break. This is another edition of Life and the Law, conversations about your rights with the Legal Aid Society of Cleveland. We're talking about domestic violence. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and we will be right back. This is WOVU 95.9 FM.
No, if we were never taught or told to never stop fighting, don't ever quit, just 'cause the rich get richer and the poor don't get.
If you need legal help with housing, employment, benefits, domestic safety, or another fundamental need, please visit Legal Aid's website at www.lasclev.org anytime to apply for assistance. You can also call during Legal Aid's intake hours, Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 9 to 4 p.m., or Tuesday and Thursday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Call 216-687-1900.
This is Mayor Justin Bibb. Are you looking for an opportunity to serve others? Are you looking for an exciting career with great pay and benefits? If you answered yes to these questions, consider working at the City of Cleveland in law enforcement. As a son of a cop, I know firsthand how rewarding a career in law enforcement is. The Cleveland Division of Police offers advancement and a competitive salary. We are seeking a diverse group of young and motivated individuals who truly reflect our community. Call 216-623-5233 to speak with our recruiter, or go to governmentjobs.com/careers/Cleveland. I encourage you to apply today.
It's time to make the short story longer, yeah. Stand up, my people. Stand for something in your life. Stand up, my people. Yeah.
Welcome back. This is Our Voices Today. You are tuned in at 95.9 FM WOVU, Our Voices United. We are having a conversation about your rights with our friends from Legal Aid Society. We're talking about domestic violence, as October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We have attorneys Alexandria Rudin and Haley Martinelli, both supervising attorneys in the Family Practice Law Group with the Legal Aid Society of Cleveland. Alexandria, before the break, broke it down for us, giving us a picture of what domestic violence is and isn't. Some of the things that I jotted down: it's a pattern of behavior. It's not just one time. It's a matter of power and control over an intimate partner. And she said a lot more than that. But, Haley, what are some warning signs to look out for? Once that might mean a person is at greater risk of harm, or, what are the warning signs that we look for in our own interactions with intimate partners that might signal this is going to lead to domestic violence, or I am, being abused and I'm not really aware of it?
Yeah, so there are a number of behaviors that a victim can look for that indicate that the abuser is likely to escalate. And I should say, I'm going to use the term victim throughout this. I know some people prefer survivor, so that can certainly be substituted in, but I prefer victim. I'm going to use that word, but I recognize that that many prefer survivor. But anyways, there are a number of behaviors that can indicate that someone is likely to escalate. So one is firearms. If an offender has threatened the victim with a firearm in the past, that's a big red flag, the future danger. But even firearm, but the mere presence of a firearm in the home, that also increases a victim's risk of future harm, according to the research. Another big red flag is strangulation. So a lot of folks might say that they were choked or choked out, but that's actually strangulation. The term strangulation applies to any pressure applied to the neck that cuts off oxygen or blood flow to the brain. And this could be someone using their hands to squeeze around a neck, stepping on someone's neck, using what we call a ligature, so that's something like a belt or a rope. But reason that strangulation is often the last warning shot. So a person who is strangled by an intimate partner is 7.5 times more likely to later be killed by that intimate partner. Wow. So it's a really, really big indicator of future harm and homicide. And it's also important to note here, while I'm talking about strangulation, is that those who are strangled, it's really important to seek medical attention right away. Oftentimes, strangulation doesn't lead to any outward visible marks, and so that might make a person think that it wasn't that bad. But often, strangulation can cause internal injuries that don't show on the outside. So it's really important that medical imaging be done to assess for internal injuries.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yes.
No, I was just going to say a couple other risk factors for someone being at increased harm are separation. So a lot of people actually think that once a victim's able to separate themselves from the abuser, that they're safe. But oftentimes that period of separation is the most dangerous period for a victim. Stalking is also a big red flag. The offender threatening suicide, and the offender being constantly jealous.
Wow.
And if I could just add, as much as 40% of physical battering begins when a woman is pregnant.
Wow. 40% of physical battering. And can you explain what battering is?
Well, that is another word for domestic violence.
Okay.
And it's usually synonymous with physical abuse. But as I said earlier, physical abuse is just one indicator of domestic violence because it is so broad and the social definition includes so much. I think that when we look at battering, we do think physical abuse. But here's the thing. If somebody abuses you physically one time, all they have to do the second time is raise their arm. And if you've been abused, you know that guess what's coming next.
Yeah.
So it's frightening.
So, Haley, you mentioned separation is the most dangerous period when a victim, as you say, has gotten away from the abuser. How is that? Why is that the most dangerous time?
Well, that like Alexandria said, domestic violence is really about power and control. And so when a victim is able to leave, they take that control away from the offender, and they, develop their own sense of control, and they're controlling the situation by leaving. So that, angers an abuser and can make the violence escalate.
Wow. Firearms in the home, strangulation, if being choked out, any way your airflow is cut off, if you are in a situation like that, if someone's listening, what can they do, after hearing these signs? Maybe this is happening to them. What should they do?
They should, if they're able to confide in somebody that they trust, a friend or family member, to just kind of say, this is what's going on. I may need help in the future. To have someone that is, ready to step in the event that they need to leave the relationship. I often tell people to develop a code word with trusted friend or family member. So this is a word that would seem innocuous, but it actually would signal to the friend or family member that this person needs help and, call the police. So that way, if the victim's in trouble, they can text or, call their friend and say that word, and it doesn't signal to the abuser that anything is going on, but really she's signaling that I need help. And safety planning is really important as well. So a safety plan can come in handy if you need to leave the house in a rush, if you're in immediate danger. So part of crafting a safety plan is planning an escape route out of the house into a place where you can ask for help. So, think through the layout of your house and think about which rooms you should avoid when an argument ensues. For example, avoid rooms that contain weapons, and try and go somewhere where there's an escape. So windows, doors, that you're able to leave. And then, I also often tell people to have a bag ready to go. So pack a small bag with some essentials for you and your children, bank information, some cash, passports, social security cards, birth certificates, important documents, and any items that just can't be replaced. And have that, a bag ready to go so that in case you need to leave in a hurry, you can just grab that bag and kind of get out of the situation.
Yeah. When you mentioned, passports and bank account information and cash, I immediately thought I would think that a lot of people who are in domestic violence situations, advocating for the devil here for educational purposes only, but aren't like rich people or people who have those things that you do. You have a passport that you travel with a passport, right? I know it's a form of ID, but just go with me here. You got cash, in reserve in your home, but that just illuminates again, that domestic violence happens at any level, any socioeconomic level, any, racial, ethnic group, and men and women, right? So, and then children are also, well, I'll ask you, the experts, do children, who are abused in the home, do those situations qualify as domestic violence?
Absolutely. Childhood exposure to domestic violence is significant and is intergenerational, in that if we can't break the cycle of this violence, children will grow up to emulate those parents. So there are more boys that grow up to emulate their fathers and are abusive to women, and there are more women who grow up. Now, this is general. I am not saying it happens in every case, but there are more girls that grow up to be abused because that's what they see as the norm. And when you look at that, when you just said when you commented on how hard it is for low-income women, it is. And because of that, you can understand why so many victims of domestic violence remain with their batterers or return to their batterers. Mm-hmm. And they do so because they do not have the resources. And if they have children, they remain longer.
Right. Yes.
So there obviously is a lot more exposure when they do that as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And, thinking from all sides, women, children, I mentioned men, has there been an increase in men, reporting being abused by their partner, now that there is a heightened awareness around domestic violence and men, the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial, that might not be her correct last name, but a bulk of it was about him saying that he was abused by her in their relationship. And, there were a lot of jokes about it, but this is something that's real. Men are abused in relationships, but has that increased, or, is that still kind of like sort of an anomaly?
Well, I started this work in 1980 when the domestic violence law passed, and the statistics stated that it was like 98% of domestic violence occurred towards women. Mm-hmm. I think if you look at the legal definition, one could argue that men are also abused by women. And now the studies show it's down to between 75% and 85%. So when you look at the number of women, what you see is the number of domestic violence towards men is increasing. And it's less of a stigma now for men. So they do report it. It's not perfect, because people see it as a crime against women, mm-hmm. and generally it is a crime against women. But men are abused, and because they are abused, they are beginning to report more.
Mm-hmm. Do the same. Go ahead, Haley.
I'm sorry. I was just going to add that there was also a stigma around same-sex reporting domestic violence, and that, I think, based on what I see in my practice, I think that is slowly getting a bit better. There's obviously a lot of room for improvement, but it is important to note that domestic violence can happen, in any type of relationship. Mm-hmm. So it's not always just a man and a woman. So hopefully, people in those types of situations, as we kind of go on, can feel more comfortable reporting mm-hmm. domestic violence.
Side question: can roommates be domestically violent? Does that qualify? They're not romantically involved, not family.
Interestingly, no.
Mm-hmm.
There is. Domestic violence legally includes spouses, former spouses, parents, children, people related by blood or marriage, foster children, people who have never lived together but who have a child in common, and persons living as spouses. And those are people who cohabit. Those are people who have cohabited within 5 years prior to the violence, or those are people who have been in a common law marriage. Even though we abolished it, if people entered into it before 1991, they would be included. Now, the Supreme Court, in a case called State versus Williams, defined cohabitation for purposes of domestic violence. And it's a sharing of familial and financial responsibility and consortium. And the way they define consortium would include, for the most part, a sexual relationship. And that's what the case law has said. And I know there have been cases where, let's say, roommates at college are abused. Well, they have other options. There are assault crimes. There are other types of protection orders if they are non-family or household members. But this domestic violence is specific to a grouping of people. And it would not be that broad.
Thank you.
Hence, let me just say why we adopted and enacted a domestic violence law in the beginning. We did so because stranger assaults were treated differently than assaults between intimates.
Thank you for illuminating that. And for the cases where you stated most of the domestic violence situations is men enacting violence on women. When it's the other way around, are we looking for the same warning signs? The firearms in the home, suicide threats, the jealousy.
Most of them, yes. But I will say strangulation is very much a crime that males commit against females. We don't see strangulation as much or really at all with females committing strangulation. So that's one that's an exception. But otherwise, yeah, we're looking at all the same risk factors.
Very, very interesting. We are talking about domestic violence, the warning signs, what it entails, who it affects, and all things related with some friends from the Legal Aid Society of Cleveland, Haley Martinelli and Alexandria Rudin, both supervising attorneys in the family practice group at Legal Aid. We are, becoming more aware, spreading the awareness. Unfortunate that we have to continue to have these conversations, but grateful that we are able to elevate all of this information so that we can put it to good use. So be aware of the warning signs. We'll be right back. If you or someone is in this kind of situation, maybe Legal Aid could help. 216-687-1900. And we'll talk about the ways that Legal Aid can help in domestic violence situations when we come back. This is Our Voices Today on WOVU 95.9 FM.
Hi, this is Nicole Huffman of Inspired by Love, introducing the Organize My Life community group. Join us here on WOVU 95.9 FM and online for monthly organization tips to help you become more productive and less stressful. Great resources and tips that's no cost to you. Celebrate good times. Come on, it's time to celebrate. We've been talking all month about organizing our to-do list. A celebration should always follow the hard work that you are doing. Take a moment to relax. Treat yourself to your favorite restaurant. Order the book. Enjoy the cupcake. However you celebrate, just make sure you pop your collar and say job well done. This is just the beginning to a better you. Keep listening to WOVU 95.9 FM for more tips to build your Organize My Life toolbox. I am Nicole Huffman with Inspired by Love, and we are on this journey together. Let's get organized.
Attention, Burton Bell Carr would like for you to join our team. Here's a list of positions available: VITA Site Coordinator, Community Engagement Coordinator, Resident Service Coordinator, Business Development Coordinator, and Executive Program Assistants. Please call 216-341-1455. That's 216-341-1455 for more information.
This message is brought to you by WOVU 95.9 FM, Our Voices United, a Burton Bell Carr community radio station.
Are you struggling with a legal issue that impacts your basic needs, such as housing, safety, or finances? The Legal Aid Society of Cleveland may be able to help. They offer free legal services to people facing eviction, landlord disputes, debt problems, and more. Visit Legal Aid's website at www.lasclev.org to apply for help, or call 216-687-1900.
It's time to make the short story longer. Yeah.
Welcome back to the program. This is Our Voices Today. We are talking with our friends from Legal Aid Society. Thank you so much, the wonderful Imani Capri, for giving us that good information. Get in touch with Legal Aid at 216-687-1900, 687-1900. For Spanish speakers, you can call 216-586-3190, 216-586-3190. If you need help with any basic need, housing, employment, domestic safety. And that is where I wanted to pick up right now as we return from the break. You know, we've been talking, a lot, and we'll talk about it more, but when we call legal aid, or when do we know we should call legal aid in a domestic violence situation, or if we should, but also how does legal aid help victims of domestic violence and families in crisis in this manner?
Well, I will leave it up to Haley to say exactly when, but if people need civil protection orders, here's the thing. Victims of violence want the abuse to stop. That's what they want. However, that can happen. The legal system has certain ways of separating people: civil protection orders, divorces. Those are the major ways we do this in family law. Additionally, because there are children involved, as Haley said, we deal with custody. But that is when we address it legally. When you said, how would somebody know? Some people don't disclose. Some people don't even know they're abused. Sometimes they come in for a divorce, and the more we talk to them, we realize they are abused.
Yeah. Haley?
I think that question of when is it time to call legal aid, or when is it time to get help, is really different for everybody. And victims of violence and people who are in these controlling relationships, they know best how to keep themselves safe. They know their partner the best. They know, triggers and things like that. So that question of when do you leave or when do you go, is really different for everybody. And oftentimes victims really know that best because they know the dynamic best.
Yeah. And so what about, when there's children involved? I think Alexandra, you told us 40% of physical battering begins when a woman is pregnant. which is a very tricky time for someone a pregnant person. You are naturally nesting. You're trying to find a safe place to care for your child that's coming, and to leave a home where it may be unsafe, but it's very stable. You know what to expect, what's going to happen. But after the children come, or a woman gets in a relationship and already has children that aren't from her partner, what is it that we can tell people about, if we find ourselves in that situation? And also, what are the outcomes, as adults for children who grow up or experience domestic violence in their living situations?
Well, let me start. Women stay or leave for so many reasons. Financial dependence on their spouse, that's a big one. Mm-hmm. They stay for the children. Interestingly, they leave for the children. Right. They stay because they have no other support system. And we're lucky in Cuyahoga County because we do have very good DV programming around the county. But that is why they stay. Sometimes and I guess I should back up and say many of them stay because they love their spouse. Mm-hmm. I remember years ago when Ray Rice beat his girlfriend in the elevator. After that happened, there was a blog, and a woman wrote in, and I can never forget that. She writes in, "I stayed so my children could have a father. I left so my children could have a mother." Mm. And that's what we see. But what we do see is children at every age are impacted, not only by being directly hit, and it's more likely if you beat your spouse that you will beat your kids, but it's broader than that. And I think we need to look at the trauma children face, and the ACEs scores. They talk about this type of trauma and how adverse childhood experiences. And there's enough studies. The CDC has worked with that, and they have said that battering is one of those factors and variables. Mm-hmm. And again, like I said earlier, if we want to break the cycle of domestic violence, we have to teach our men. We have to work with our children. Every court needs to have resources that address that. Every school needs to have resources that will address violence in the home, because we are not going to get rid of violence in the streets. We're not going to get rid of gang violence. We're not going to get rid of violence out in the community until we address violence in the home.
Yeah.
And the impact on children that witness domestic violence is really on par with the impact of children who are directly abused themselves. They experience really similar impacts, and that, what exactly that looks like depends on the child. It depends on their environment, their support system, things like that. But witnessing domestic violence is really just as impactful as a child being directly abused themselves. And, that's something that we at Legal Aid work to educate people on and educate the court system on is, just because the child wasn't directly abused doesn't mean that child wasn't severely impacted.
Mm-hmm. And what about, parenting in a situation where there is domestic violence, or parenting after separation between the two partners? How does that work?
Well, let me just say, the system sees domestic violence. They see it as a factor. It is a factor for custody and parenting time. But the family court system wants to give both parents maximum time. Then the question is, when there's domestic violence, can you do it? Mm-hmm. And then you have the same old myths. Well, if she really was abused, she would have left. If the children weren't directly impacted, then guess what? They don't see it. All the things that Haley and I have talked about today. But in order to co-parent with somebody who's been domestically violent. And they can. It's learned behavior, domestic violence. So even though it cannot be unlearned, I think that some parents, some fathers can make good parents if they own what happened. They're able to articulate to their spouse and children how that abuse impacted them. And they're willing to make the kind of change necessary, and they commit to that change.
I recently listened to a podcast. I think we all became familiar with the Serial podcast, Serial, when they did a series on the Cuyahoga County courts and at the Justice Center. And they have a new season out about a family where the father beat the children, beat their mother, beat up his girlfriends, and but he would kiss those kids every night before going to bed, tucking them in, and they were a unit. They were like a gang. They described themselves as like a little tribe. Wherever you saw one, you would see the other, the daughter, the son, and the father. And the mother said that she left the father and put the kids in foster care to protect them. And then the father fought very hard for many years to get both of them out of foster care, yet he still abused them throughout their entire childhood. So it's a complicated situation,
Children love their abusers. Children love their parents. The thing is, do we have enough resources to help both parents learn the ability to parent children when the marriage ends, taking into account that the victim needs to be safe?
Yeah. So if kids are, I don't know if you can answer this question, but I wonder, when children report abuse in the home or confide in someone, how likely is someone or an authority figure going to investigate or, give, life to, the words of the child?
It depends. It depends on what's going on in the relationship. It depends on if a court thinks that one of the parents is coaching the child to say something. And I can't give you any kind of statistics. I probably would say, if you're thinking 100%, I don't know, 50%, Haley?
Yeah, I mean, I think ideally you would like to think that anytime a child confides in an adult about abuse, that it, gets some further attention. But I mean, I would hope that it's higher than that, but I don't know any specific statistics.
Yeah.
I think, let me say, it also depends on who the child discloses to.
Right.
If the child discloses to the other parent, sometimes it's looked at as suspect. Not that it should be. I'm just telling you what the facts seem to suggest. But if they disclose to a teacher or they disclose to somebody unrelated to the parent, they look sometimes at it much more seriously.
And confiding in people that we trust, that we're in a situation. I've heard that, sometimes family members will encourage a person to, try to work it out with their abusive partner, and encourage them to stay. Do you see that often in the people that are helped in the legal aid population, or is that something like that's confirmed in the research?
The research, and I can speak from my practice, it takes a victim of domestic violence about 7 times going through the going to legal aid, coming back before they get out. That's on average. And it has been that way since I started my direct service practice at legal aid in 1984. So they leave. If they know that they have somebody they can trust, they'll come back. And we find that many of our clients come back a second, third, fourth time. And there'll be one time when they are ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're not there for them, then it's problematic. But if we are, then they will end up getting out of the relationship. And again, some go back. There are all kinds of reasons. Some believe it is not. I think the society needs to see this is victims, as Haley said, victims know what they need. They are the best spokespeople for themselves. And victims stay, and sometimes staying is safer than leaving.
Mm-hmm. It's hard. It's tough. It's just tough. It's tough because, for on the outside looking in, you have a loved one who is suffering, and you just can't understand all the reasons why that they would continue to be in that situation. But again, it's all tricky. It's tricky, and as the two of you have said, people know what's best for them, and we can't dictate what someone should do with their lives, but we can provide information and resources, not necessarily bombard or beat them over the head about it, but, be there, be a helping hand, a lending hand, a helping ear. You know what I'm trying to say. Yeah. How do we best support our loved ones, our friends, or even, maybe coworkers that, where it's clear or they have, mentioned something about, being in a domestic violence situation?
I think it's really important to just let that person know that you're there and that you're listening and that you believe them. Like we've talked about, it's, difficult to leave, and that, the time of when a victim is ready to leave a relationship varies. So, being that person that they trust, that coworker, that friend, that family member, really just letting them know that you're there whenever they are ready. You're going to be there to help support them.
When you talk to clients who do confide in somebody else, the other important piece is to tell that other person, stay with them. Don't get rid of your support because they didn't get out time one or time two. Mm-hmm. You have to stay there and be that support system. But again, as I think we talked about, we have the Journey Center for Safety and Healing. We have the Family Justice Center. So outside of the legal area, we have Jewish Family Services. We do have pockets of community resources where victims can go to call to find out who to go to. Mm-hmm. We also know them, so if they come to see us, we can make those referrals as well.
And should we be calling the police when things feel weird?
Yeah, if you're unsafe, definitely call the police.
Interestingly, the statistic that I recently saw said that less than 36% of women actually call the police. If their time with the police was good, then they will respond and call them again. Otherwise, it presents a chilling effect for them, and they won't call the police again. Mm-hmm. And that's something we need to change.
Yeah. Alexandria.
Is into one of.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Haley.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Sorry. We just have just a little bit of time left, but I wanted to give you all the last word. Alexandria Rudin and Haley Martinelli have been with us this hour from Legal Aid Society, the family practice group, giving us, the facts and sage wisdom and advice from their careers, their experience. So I believe that we can trust them and because they come from Legal Aid, and we Legal Aid are our friends. So thank you so much, Alexandria and Haley. Yes, I'll give you, the two of you, the last word. What should we remember, as we leave this hour?
I can say there is help available. Mm-hmm. You're not alone, and there are people all around this county that will help.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah, and specific to Legal Aid, we can help folks get a civil protection order. We can help folks get a divorce. If there's an element of domestic violence, we can help in that custody dispute. So Legal Aid is here to help.
All right. That number to call, 216-687-1900, 216-687-1900, or go to the website lasclev.org. Thank you so much. And thank you to our attorneys, and thank you for our listening audience. Thanks for joining us. We're out of here. Bye.
Thank you.
To never